Hey, sir, may I please have exhibit number 79? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to pass you two documents. One has previously been marked as Exhibit 79. So for the one that's not marked, I'm going to ask if you recognize that.
I do.
Okay, can you tell us what it is?
It was a image found on the social media returns of Megan and Hunter at Blowing Rock.
Okay. And based upon your analysis, were you able to determine a date of that photograph being taken?
Yeah, according to the search warrant proceeds, it was taken on or about January 20th of 2020.
Okay. Your Honor, we'd ask that that photograph be made exhibit number 241.
So it was subject for your prior rule, yes, sir. The exhibit 241, subject for prior rule.
And did you also recognize the exhibit that I handed up along with that?
Of the message?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Permission to publish, Your Honor? Okay. Okay. So, is this the photograph you were referencing
Yes.
a few moments ago, dated January 20th of 2020?
Yes.
Is that right? And based upon your work on this investigation, are you able to identify who the individuals are in this photograph?
It appears to be the defendant and Hunter.
Hunter Wood?
Hunter Wood. It's kind of difficult to see it, but
Okay.
it's believed to be Hunter Wood.
Yeah, I think it's always a little bit more difficult on these screens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then previously marked exhibit number 79. I'm going to pass all three up to you.
picture, it appears to be Hunter in the picture with a car behind him. The caption at the bottom says, "So proud of my baby!" Exclamation point, new 2020 High Country.
Okay, and are you able to determine the date that that was posted?
Yeah, this appeared to have been posted on or about February the 18th.
Okay, and did you also obtain that from the defendant's social media search warrant?
Yes.
Okay, we asked that be exhibit number 244.
Was it 244?
Permission to publish.
Go ahead.
So is this the photo you're referencing that the defendant posted on February 18th of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. One second. Were you also asked to review the defendant's social media records regarding Ethan Perry?
Yes.
And were you aware, pursuant to this investigation, of who Ethan Perry was?
I was.
Okay. And did you actually review communications between the defendant and Ethan Perry?
I did.
Can you tell the jury a summation of what you noticed regarding their communications?
Objection. The same as the form.
Okay, let me ask it a different way. Can you please give us, based upon your review of their communications, a pattern of behavior by the defendant to Ethan Perry?
Yes. So in the communication between the defendant and Ethan Perry, the defendant sent Perry a lot of messages, and probably at least a dozen messages every day from November 1st and onwards. So there were regular updates about Evelyn throughout those communications, and there were photos posted of Evelyn during those communications as well. And the communications went until about December 3rd. As soon as December 3rd hit, the amount of communications between Ethan and Megan went down quite a bit, and no unique images of Evelyn were seen afterwards. So she did send more pictures of Evelyn, but they were old pictures of like Evelyn and Ethan together. So I didn't observe any new photos after approximately December the 3rd.
Okay, all right, thank you. Please answer any questions the defense has for you.
Yes.
Just then, Judge. You may. No question. Is he free to go and see you subject to recall?
There's a potential for recall, but if so, we'll get in touch with him and let him know.
Agent Grant, you're finished right now with your testimony. You are being subject to recall. You don't have to sit here at the courthouse. We make sure that you get all the thorough.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next.
State would call Marley Gray.
your name?
Marla Gray.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You are Marla Gray, is that correct?
That's correct.
And where are you employed?
I am employed at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Knoxville Crime Lab.
And what is your position there with TBI?
I am a Special Agent Forensic Scientist Supervisor, and I'm assigned to the Forensic Biology Unit.
And Agent Gray, if you would, kind of give the jury an overview of what your duties are there within that division.
So we analyze evidence for the presence of bodily fluids and skin cells, and then we determine who those fluids or skin cells belong to, doing DNA analysis.
And what sort of educational background do you have that allows you to perform these duties?
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I have also completed the in-house training program that is set forth by the TBI.
And have you had specific training relating to serology and DNA analysis?
Yes, during that 18-month training program, we cover serology, all the testings that we do, DNA analysis, and interpretation.
Approximately how many examinations would you say you've performed over your years in the TBI?
I've been there for 14 years, and in that time, I've worked almost 1,600 cases.
Do you hold any certifications?
I do not.
Okay. Does the TBI provide technical equipment that you're able to use in the performance of your duties there?
Yes, they do.
All right. And is this equipment standard across the state and within the scientific community?
Yes, it is well known, not just across the state, but in forensic labs all over the world.
Have you been qualified to testify as an expert witness in the criminal courts here in Tennessee?
I have.
And in fact, have you been qualified as an expert here in Sullivan County?
I have.
All right. And after having been qualified as an expert witness, have you then gone on to give testimony as an expert witness?
Yes, I have.
And was your qualification as an expert in the field of serology and DNA analysis?
Yes, or in forensic biology, which encompasses both of those.
All right. Judge, we would tender Agent Gray as an expert in the field of serology and DNA analysis.
Judge, I agree, she's an expert.
All right. Should we deem to be an expert in the field of serology and DNA?
Agent Gray, you touched on this a little bit, but if you would kind of tell us a little bit about the differences between serology and DNA and what they are.
So serology is the screening process. When evidence comes in, we're determining if we're looking for blood, semen, or saliva, and then we'll take a portion of that through the DNA analysis. If it's an item that's been handled, we're not looking for a fluid, but we're looking for skin cells that were left behind.
All right. And what sorts of things are you looking for when you perform those types of analysis?
For, say, blood cases, we're looking for tests that change color, that indicate blood, and then we'll take that through the DNA process to generate DNA profiles for comparison.
All right. And obviously you work in a laboratory down there in Knoxville, correct?
I do.
Do you all have a process for how you handle evidence that comes into the lab?
Yes, we have policies and procedures that we follow. So in instances, every piece of evidence is worked one at a time. We don't have multiple items out at the same time. We wear lab coats, masks, gloves. Gloves are changed between every piece of evidence. Items are cleaned between touching evidence. Butcher paper is put out.
Okay. And each case, is that assigned a specific case number within the lab?
Yes, so when evidence comes in, the evidence receiving unit will give it a unique laboratory case number. All the evidence that is associated with this case will have that number, and all the requests for exams that come in. That way we make sure they match.
All right. And I assume that you make sure that evidence, before you perform any testing, is secured and has not been tampered with in any way.
Yes, before it is accepted into the lab, the evidence receiving unit will make sure that it is in a sealed condition. And then when we get it to analyze it, we also double check that it is in a sealed condition before we begin our testing.
All right. Agent Gray, you were asked to perform numerous tests on evidence in connection with the Evelyn Boswell case. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And you received items in the lab on several different occasions. That be correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the first batch of items that you received on March the 4th of 2020, which resulted in your first report that was issued on March the 10th of 2020. When you received those first items, what were you attempting to do or to find within the evidence that it was sent to you?
For this first batch of items, the Evelyn had not been found yet, so these were items that said that they belonged to her. So I was trying to generate a DNA profile that could be put in the missing persons database.
Okay. So at this point in time, you had no profile with which to compare because the body had not been found, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And if you would, kind of describe for the jury the process that you went in trying to develop a profile from those items.
So this was a box of clothing that said belonged to Evelyn, bracelets, a baby book, stuffed animals. There was also items that were submitted from different areas that had been collected from previous investigations. So with looking for something I could generate a profile from, I was looking at the neck area because babies drool, so I thought that would be a good source of DNA. For the first batch, I didn't get anything. The items could have been washed, so her profile wasn't generated until the next report with the next batch of items.
Okay. And specifically, which item you mentioned that you were looking for drool? Which item were you testing in that first?
For the first report, it was the first birthday shirt from the baby box.
Okay. And I noticed in the report it says that staining was observed with alternate light source screening in the
Yes.
neck area. Okay. And was there any sort of profile you developed at all?
It was a mixture of at least two individuals, but since it was a mixture, I could not use it as her DNA standard since it wasn't single source.
Okay. So essentially, and also looking at your report, it looks like there was a silver clip that you also, I guess, attempted to.
Yes,
Develop a
hair
profile
clips and a diaper. I believe these were found in Mendota, Virginia.
Okay. And again, were you able to develop a profile from those?
No, there was no DNA on any of those items.
All right. Agent Gray, I'm going to pass you a document and ask you if you recognize it.
Yes, this is a copy of my forensic biology report dated March 10th, 2020.
Okay. And does that reflect your findings or lack thereof
Yes.
on the first batch of testing that you did?
Yes.
Judge, we've moved to make that exhibit number 245.
No objection. Exhibit 245.
Now, Agent Gray, I want to ask you about another report. You were aware of an item of evidence, which was a trash can that was collected from the scene. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if there are, I guess, different disciplines or different testing that's going to be done, for instance, if an item is going to be tested by forensic biology division as well as latent fingerprints, is it possible that a piece of evidence would be sent between the labs?
Yes, the Knoxville Crime Lab does not have a latent print unit, so all evidence that requests latents are sent to the Nashville lab.
Okay. And so specifically in this case, was the trash can being sent to latent prints to have prints done?
Yes.
All right. And as a result of that, did the Nashville lab collect some swabs from the trash can in order for you to perform DNA testing at a later date?
Yes, Dr. Christina Proctor collected swabs for me to test later.
And Agent Gray, I'm going to hand you another document, ask if you recognize that.
This is a copy of the report that was written by Christina Proctor stating the areas of the trash can that she swabbed.
Okay. So that just reflects the fact that they did in fact collect swabs from the trash can, is
Yes.
that correct? Judge, we move to make that report number 246.
Objection?
Yes, sir.
All right. Agent Gray, the next batch of items that you tested, those were items that had been taken from the trash can and from trash bags that were found in the area where the victim was located. At the point in time which you began your testing on these items, had you received additional information as far as the profile of the victim was concerned?
Yes, I received a call from Special Agent Brian Fraley the night that Evelyn was found regarding her condition, and they were just making sure that a body could generate a DNA profile after it had decomposed that badly.
Okay. And did you subsequently receive items from the forensic pathology department at ETSU after the autopsy had been performed?
Yes, I received a blanket that she was found wrapped in, her diaper, clothing, and an FTA card, which is a DNA standard from blood of the victim.
And so after you received the FTA card, were you able to generate a profile of the victim?
Yes, I went back and worked the pants belonging to Evelyn Boswell and a shirt that belonged to Evelyn Boswell. I compared that to the FTA card that was submitted, and it matched.
Okay. So you were able to perform testing on those items that you previously been unable to.
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. And if you would kind of walk us through the items. The first item, was that the pants?
Are you looking at the report March 11th?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. The
Item 1D. Sorry.
yeah,
the
that was the pants.
Okay. What were your findings in regards to the pants that have been submitted?
So I tested the inside waistband, looking for skin cells that had rubbed off her waist area, and it matched. The DNA profile was consistent with a mixture of at least 3 individuals, but the major contributor matched Exhibit 14A, the FTA card from the unidentified female, and then Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell, was excluded.
Okay. Is that unusual to see mixtures of 3 individuals on a piece of clothing?
No, it is not.
And why is that?
Just because of commingling in the laundry. When they get washed, of course, DNA is getting mixed together. Even with articles of clothing, if they hadn't have been washed prior to her wearing them, you're looking at people that might have picked up the clothing at the store or people that manufactured the clothing. We could still get their DNA on clothing items.
And again, you identified the major contributor as being the victim in this case, correct?
Yes, there was enough major DNA profile to do a comparison.
And on item 1F, which was the shirt, what were your findings in regards to that item?
So the neck area was swabbed for that item, and the DNA profile was consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including at least 1 male. The major contributor profile matched Exhibit 14A, the FTA card from an unidentified female, and Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell, was excluded.
Okay. Now, talk for a minute just about the fact you said that it included at least 1 male. How do you know that?
From the DNA profile that we generate, it has a sex indicator marker, which is, of course, the XY chromosome, and in this instant, the Y chromosome showed up.
But you cannot tell anything else about the profile other than the fact that it was male. Is that
Correct.
correct?
It was too low to do any comparisons with.
Okay. Were there any other items that were tested as part of your report that was done on March the 11th, 2020?
No, this one was just the pants and the buckle standard from Megan Boswell and the FTA card from the unidentified female. And then this report was given to the ME for identification purposes.
Okay. So that was the purpose of your testing in this report? Okay. And you prepared a report that you then sent to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to hand you a document, Agent Gray, and ask you if you can recognize that.
Yes, this is a copy of the report dated March 11th, 2020.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the report that you prepared of your findings?
Yes.
Monday. Judge, we have to make that exhibit number 247.
Any objection?
No, sir.
You forward to 247.
The next results that you reported, those would be on your report from March the 25th of 2020. The items there were ones that were taken from the trash can and the trash bags. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we'll start with the first item, which was a piece of chewed gum from the trash can, identified in the report as Exhibit 7A. Did you perform testing on that
I did.
item?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
If we could we pass Agent Gray exhibit number 197? It should be a bag, small bag. Agent Gray, will you take a look at that and see if you recognize it?
Yes, this is my exhibit 7A, which is the chewed gum. This is the seal. It has my initials on it. This barcode, this is what is generated by the evidence receiving unit that has that unique laboratory case number. And this is how the internal chain of custody is maintained throughout the lab. And these are, of course, my initials.
Okay. You recognize your initials there on that item?
Yes,
All right. Did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
And if you would, tell us what the results were that you obtained.
The DNA profile matched Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual who would be included as a contributor of the DNA profile is 1 in a number greater than the current world population.
Any other profiles besides that?
No, that was a single source profile.
Okay. And thank you. If we could hand her exhibit number 217. Again, should be a bag.
It says blue gloves.
Yes, do you recognize what's been handed to you?
It does not have a barcode or my ID on it, so I don't know if I worked this or not.
Okay, all right. Hand that back to the lady. I'm gonna come back to that. If we could hand her exhibit 218. You recognize that item,
Yes.
and what is it?
This is my Exhibit 18A, which was a cold and cough medicine bottle. There's the barcode that is generated by the TBI and the seal that I placed on it after I was done with the evidence.
And did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
And if you would, tell us what the results were of your analysis.
The outside of the bottle was swabbed. A limited DNA profile was obtained and is consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including at least 1 male. Due to the limited profile obtained and the unknown number of potential contributors, interpretation is inconclusive.
All right. So you were not able to form any kind of profile at all, is that correct?
That's correct.
So regardless of whose DNA, other profiles you would have had, there would have been no way for you to match that with anyone, is that?
Correct. It has to meet a certain strength before we do any comparisons to it, and this did not meet that quality.
Can we next hand her exhibit number 200? You recognize it?
Yes, this is my exhibit number 19A, which is a Dasani water bottle. Here's the TDI barcode, and this was the seal that I placed on it when I completed it.
And did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
And what were your findings?
So the mouth area and inside of the cap was swabbed for testing. The DNA profile is consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals. The major contributor profile is consistent with Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell. It also had World Pop stats, and the minor profile was inconclusive.
And if we could next hand her Exhibit 211. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is it?
This is my Exhibit 20A, which is a great value water bottle. There's the TDI barcode, my ID, and the seal that was placed on it with my initials.
And again, I'd ask you, did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
And what were your findings?
The mouth and inside the cap area were swabbed in this item also. The DNA profile is consistent with Exhibit 14A, Evelyn Boswell, with World Pop stats.
No other profiles on that particular item?
There was an additional allele at one of the locations, but nothing was, it was inconclusive.
Okay. Next, if we could hand her number 212. Do you recognize that item?
I do. This is my Exhibit 22A, which is a Misty water bottle. The TBI barcode with my ID and the seal that was placed on it when I was finished.
And did you perform analysis on that piece of evidence?
I did.
And what were your findings?
So once again, the mouth area and the inside of the cap was swabbed for testing, and the DNA profile matched Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell, with World Pop stats.
And next, we could hand you Exhibits 213. I'm sorry. I picked up what were you just handed 213?
Yes.
Do you recognize that? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes, it is my exhibit 24A. It is a Food Club water bottle. There's the TBI barcode label and my seal that I put on it when I was complete.
Okay. And did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
And what were your findings?
So once again, the mouth area and inside the cap was tested. Quantification results did not indicate a sufficient amount of human DNA for analysis, so no further testing was performed.
All right. And next, if we could enter 223, which should be one of the pillows. Recognize that item.
Yes, this is my exhibit 33A, which is a white pillow. There is the TBI barcode and my seal with my ID on it.
Okay. And did you perform analysis on that?
I did.
Okay. If you would tell us what your findings were.
So the first thing I did was screen the item with the ALS looking for saliva where somebody slept on it. And the center of the area did indicate a positive result, so that area was cut for testing. And the DNA profile is consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including at least 1 male. The major contributor profile is consistent with Exhibit 14A, Evelyn Boswell, and with WorldPop stats that the minor contributor profile was inconclusive. The edges were also tested on the pillow, and this DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture of at least 3 individuals, including at least 1 male, but due to the complexity of the mixture, it was deemed to be inconclusive.
All right. So the only profile you were able to develop was the victim, Evelyn Boswell. Is that correct?
Yes, from the center of the pillow.
We could hand her exhibit number 224 next. It also should be a pillow. Do you recognize that item?
Yes, this is a white pillow with yellow staining. Here is the TBI barcode with my ID, and down here is the seal that was placed on it after I was finished.
And did you perform testing on that particular item?
I did.
And what were your findings?
There was staining on this item, so I first tested it for the presence of blood, but it was negative. The center of the profile was tested. The quantification results did not indicate a sufficient amount of human DNA for further analysis. And the edges of the pillow were tested, and a limited DNA profile was obtained, but due to the limited profile, interpretation was inconclusive.
We could hand her at 215 next. Let's be a bottle. You recognize what's been handed to you?
I do. This is my exhibit 39A, which is a nuke baby bottle with contents. Here is the TBI barcode and the seal that I placed on it.
Okay. And did you perform analysis on that baby bottle?
I did.
And what were your findings?
So the nipple area was swabbed, and the DNA profile matched exhibit 14A, Evelyn Boswell. And the sides of the bottle were also swabbed. The DNA profile is consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals. The major contributor profile was consistent with exhibit 14A, Evelyn Boswell, and the minor contributor profile was inconclusive.
Agent Gray, I'm going to hand you an item, ask you if you can recognize that.
Yes, this is my Exhibit 9A, which is blue latex gloves with hair. This is the TBI barcode and my seal on the top.
And did you perform analysis on that item?
I did.
Okay. And what were your findings in regards to that?
Inside this bag are 3 blue latex gloves. The inside of glove 1 was a limited DNA profile of at least 2 individuals, including at least 1 male. Due to the limited profile obtained, it was inconclusive. The outside of glove 1 was a mixture of at least 2 individuals. Due to the limited profile obtained, it was also inconclusive. The inside of glove 2, a limited profile was obtained, including at least 1 male. Due to the limited profile obtained, interpretation was inconclusive. The outside of glove 2, a limited DNA profile was obtained. It was also inconclusive. Possible hairs were collected from this item but returned with the evidence because the TBI does not work hair. The inside of glove 3, a limited DNA profile was obtained. It was inconclusive. And the outside of glove 3, a limited DNA profile obtained, which was also inconclusive.
Sure. So no conclusive profiles on any of the
No.
gloves, is that correct?
That's correct.
And no, Evelyn didn't find any DNA profiles consistent with the victim on any part of the gloves, is
No.
that correct? Okay. Judge, at this time I would move to make the gloves as Exhibit 248.
Any objection?
I guess she probably needs to, I don't think, did you open those up?
I didn't.
Okay. Do you care to open those
Okay.
up?
This is the first glove, glove 1. It has a 1 on it. And this is glove number 2. Or sorry, that was glove number 3. This is glove number 2. As you can see, they're shredded.
Okay. And those were the gloves that you tested?
Yes.
Testified to? Okay. Judge, I think we, 248. All right, I just want to make sure. Agent Gray, did you prepare a report of your findings in regards to those items?
I did.
And I'm going to hand you a document. Let's see if you recognize that.
Yes, this is a copy of my forensic biology report dated March 25th, 2020.
Is that a true and accurate copy of your report that
Yes.
you issued on that date? Judge, we move to make that exhibit number 249.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Before exhibit 249.
Now, Agent Gray, obviously you tested a number of items in regards to this case. Is it common when you're working a case, especially a situation like this where you've got a missing child that's later recovered, do you speak with investigators who are working the case in order to determine which items are best for you to test and which might have more or less evidentiary value?
Yes, we do.
And was that done in this particular case?
Yes, I spoke with Agent Brian Fraley and Agent David Gratz on multiple occasions regarding this case.
And as a result of that, were certain items, I guess, initially you thought may not have had evidentiary value, but then later on you decided to test anyway to see perhaps they had more value?
Yeah, there were some items that weren't tested on the front end because like the baby food containers, just because we expected if there was DNA, if it was Evelyn's, we didn't know how probative that was to the case, but later on we did decide to go ahead and test those items.
Okay. And specifically, I want to ask you about a blanket, which I believe was your item number 36C.
Yes.
Was that in fact a blanket?
Yes.
And was that item initially not worked due to the amount of, or why was that? Let me ask you this way: why was that item not initially worked by you?
Due to the amount of decomposition fluid on the blanket, decomposition fluid contains waste and bacteria and water, and what that does is it finds the DNA and it doesn't destroy it, but it defragments it enough that we can't generate a DNA profile. So if I were to put it on my instrument, it's so fragmented that it can't resequence it. So in this instance, it wasn't originally worked due to the amount of decomposition fluid on the blanket.
Did you all ultimately make a decision later on to take a shot at it, I guess?
Yes, after speaking with Special Agent Gratz, we decided to only see if there were areas that were not stained and possibly get DNA off of that. So I tested the areas that didn't appear to have decomposition fluid on it and did not test the stained areas.
Right. And were you able to develop any sort of profiles as a result of your testing?
It was a limited DNA profile that was a mixture of at least 2 individuals, but due to the limited profile obtained, it was inconclusive.
All right. And did you prepare a report of your findings in that regard?
I did.
I'm going to hand you a document, Agent Gray, and ask you if you can identify it.
Yes, this is a accurate copy of my biology report dated April 22nd, 2020.
All right. And is that a true and accurate copy of your report in regards to your findings on the blanket?
Yes.
Judge, I'd move to make that full exhibit number 250.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Full exhibit 250.
Agent Gray, the next item I want to talk about is the foil sheeting. Talk a little bit about the condition of the foil as you received it there in the lab.
We received it. It was heavily stained with orangish brown fluids or staining. There wasn't a lot of staining or areas that were not stained. And there were pieces that were wadded up together, but I think there were 5 pieces in total.
Okay. If we could hand Agent Gray exhibits 201 and 203. One is that white box sitting right there. Yep. You recognize those items?
Yes, this is my exhibit 15A. This was my seal down here at the bottom. And this is my exhibit, also 15A, but it was just piece 3. And then my seal is at the bottom.
Okay. And is that the foil sheeting that you tested?
Yes.
If you would, tell us what the results of your testing on those items were.
So for all of the foil sheeting, presumptive testing, chemical testing indicated the presence of blood, but presumptive immunological testing did not indicate the presence of human hemoglobin, which is a component of human blood. And for all of the stained and non-stained areas, which were 10 areas total that were tested, The quantification results did not indicate the presence of human DNA, so these items were sent to the Latent Print laboratory.
All right. And did you prepare a report of your findings in regard to the foil sheeting?
I did.
I'm going to hand you a document and ask you if you can identify it.
This is a copy of my report dated March 12th, 2021.
All right. And is that a true and accurate copy of your findings in regards to the foil sheeting you've just testified to?
It is.
Judge, I'd move to make that exhibit number 251. Finally, Agent Gray, I'm going to, again, we mentioned the fact earlier that sometimes through communications you were asked to test additional items. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this last batch of testing that you did, there's also some additional material that was found in the trash bag, where the victim's body was recovered. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a black spoon, some Gerber baby food. One was a apple mango strawberry flavor, the other was a banana blueberry flavor, and then there was a tissue.
Kind of walk through these one at a time. You mentioned a black spoon. What were your results in regards to that item?
So the mouth area was swabbed for testing, and quantification did not indicate the presence of human DNA, so it was not taken any further.
Okay. And what about the Gerber apple mango strawberry baby food?
The sides of the pouch was swabbed. There was still food on the mouth area of the swab, so I stayed away from it just due to bacteria and focused on the sides of the swab, the sides of the pouch. And quantification was inconclusive for the presence of human DNA, so no further testing was performed.
And what about the Gerber banana blueberry baby food?
So once again, the sides of the pouch were swabbed, and quantification did not indicate the presence of human DNA.
Could I see Exhibit 164? I'm sorry, 214. I'm sorry, wrong number. 214. I want to see it first, please. Agent Graham, I'm going to hand you what's been previously introduced as Exhibit 214. Ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, this is my Exhibit 37A, which is a tissue. Here's a barcode.
Okay. And did you perform analysis on that particular item?
I did.
Okay. And what were your findings in regards to the tissue?
So this tissue was heavily saturated in a reddish-brown stain, so I initially tested for the presence of blood, and presumptive chemical testing indicated the presence of blood, and presumptive immunological testing indicated the presence of human hemoglobin, which is a component of human blood, and the DNA profile matched Exhibit 13A, Megan Boswell, with World Pop Stats.
Okay. Using the expression world pop stats, what does that mean?
So right now the current world population is over 8 billion people, and out of 8 billion people, no one in the world has the same DNA profile as the one that generated.
So you can say with pretty certain confidence that this was Megan Boswell's profile that you found. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Agent Gray, I'm going to hand you a document and ask you to recognize that one.
This is a copy of my forensic biology report dated October 22nd, 2021.
Okay. And is that a true and accurate copy of your findings?
It is.
That was issued. Judge, I would move to introduce that as Exhibit 252.
Before exhibit 252.
Agent Gray, in addition to your responsibilities and duties within the lab there, are you also a member of the TBI's Violent Crime Response Team?
Currently, I am not. When I became a supervisor, they took me off the BCRT, so that was 2022. But in 2020, I was a team leader and a forensic biologist for BCRT.
Okay, so back in February of 2020, you were a member of that team.
Yes.
And specifically in regards to this case, were you asked as a member of the Violent Crime Response Team to perform a couple of searches?
Yes, I was.
All right, and specifically on February the 19th of 2020, did you go to Middlesboro, Kentucky to search a 2018 red Chevy Cruze?
We received the request on February 19th. We went to Middlesboro on February 20th.
Okay. And did you in fact perform a search on a 2018 red Chevy Cruze?
I did.
And what were y'all looking for?
In this instance, we were just asked to process for the presence of blood to see if maybe, since the victim had not been located, if there might have been blood in the car.
All right. And did you all find anything of evidentiary value searching through the car?
No, it was negative for the presence of blood, and we did not collect anything from the car.
And subsequent to that, did you also receive a request around February the 28th of 2020 to search a mobile home that was located at 967 Sugar Hollow Road in Blumpville, Tennessee?
Yes, we received the request on February 27th, and we went on February 28th to 967 Sugar Hollow Road.
All right. And again, what were you searching for there at that location?
At that location, we were searching for the presence of blood, and we were also searching for Evelyn.
Okay. Find anything of evidentiary value at that location?
No, everything was presumptively negative for blood, and we did not collect any evidence. BCRT did not collect evidence.
1 second, Judge. Thank you, Agent Gray. If you would answer the questions Mr. Scott has for you.
Can I see Exhibit 249, please? No, it's too important. Good afternoon, Agent Gray. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you for asking. I am currently looking at Exhibit 249, which is your report of March 25th, 2020. Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
I want to ask you specifically about the blue gloves.
Okay.
The blue gloves, there were 3 blue gloves, is that correct?
Yes.
And 2 of those gloves had male DNA. You can confirm that.
Yes. The inside of glove 1 had male DNA, and the inside of glove 2 also had male DNA. And that was it.
And if you would explain to the jury how you determined something as male DNA versus female DNA, just briefly?
So when we see, it's called an electropherogram, which is a visual representation of an individual's DNA profile. You have your sex-determining marker, which is called amylogenin. If it's an XX, that means it's a female individual. If it's an XY, then it is a male individual. And on those instances, that Y marker showed up.
Now, you talked about some of these DNA profiles not being able to be tested further. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that because of the TBI standards for testing, or it's just impossible to do?
But we could do it, but we've done multiple testing, and there is a quantitation limit that we know we're going to generate a DNA profile versus we're not going to get anything. So in this instance, I do believe that all of these were taken through all the way through the DNA analysis, and just it was too limited to say anything about. But mostly across the nation, we follow the same QAS guidelines, which are set forth by the FBI, so it's not just TBI specific, and they are specific into the quality of DNA before we can interpret it.
Would other labs have greater capabilities?
Not to my knowledge, is if they are accredited by the same accrediting body. They have to follow the same QAS guidelines.
Okay. So it's your testimony that no lab in the world would be able to perform more specific testing than the TBI lab?
There's probably labs out there that might do a different type of DNA that we do, but that we follow like STR DNA.
Okay. So, to your knowledge, these profiles were not tested by anyone after you got finished with them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What about that? Glove, outside of glove 2's mentioned hairs were collected from that exhibit.
Yes.
Did you photograph the hairs?
No, I did not. I just documented the hairs.
Okay. Did you make a note of, are they long hairs, are they short hairs, color, anything like that?
I do believe. The palm was shredded with white residue and hair on the fingers, and the hair is dark.
Okay, the hair is dark.
Yes.
Because you didn't make any, nothing about length or anything else.
No, it was just that it was dark in color.
Okay. Talk about the pillow. I'm having a difficult time on this sheet finding the pillow.
32A.
Thank you. The pillow had Evelyn Boswell's DNA on it, is that correct?
Yes, in the center of the pillow.
Okay. Could you tell if that came from saliva or what that came from?
I did not do any testing for saliva, but the area I did tested positive for what was indicated a luminescence, so it could have been sweat or saliva.
Okay. And it also had male DNA, is that correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Were those two mixed in the same spot, or?
Yes, it was the same, the center area that I took a cutting from, so it would have been the same area.
Bear with me 1 second. And finally, there was a bottle, like a medicine bottle,
Yes.
found in the trash can. What number is it? Do you have that?
It was Exhibit 18A.
Yes, ma'am, 18A, that's what I'm looking for. And that item, it was tested, and were you able to determine if it had male DNA?
I was able to determine that it had male DNA, but it was inconclusive for any comparison purposes.
And as far as other DNA, were you able to determine if you could link anyone else to the bottle with DNA?
No, not, but once it's deemed inconclusive, no comparisons are performed.
If I could have just 1 minute, Judge. Ms. Gray, were you ever asked to compare any of these items to Hunter Woods or Preston Hunter Woods DNA?
I never received a standard for Hunter Wood, but I did not need it.
Thank you.
Agent Gray, I guess I'll follow up on your last answer there. When you said you didn't need it, why did you need it?
I didn't have any unknown male profiles to compare it to.
Okay, so there was nothing there that you would have been able to compare it to anyway, correct?
Correct.
So all these male profiles Mr. Scott's asked you about were also limited. There's no way you could have drawn it. If I had submitted to you every DNA sample from every male in the world, you would not have been able to tell me
Correct.
who it was, correct?
I wouldn't even ran them since I didn't have any unknown male DNA.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
If I could just clarify, you did have unknown male DNA on those items we just went over.
There was unknown limited male DNA, but since it wasn't strong enough for me to do any comparisons, even if they would have sent in the standard, I wouldn't have ran it.
Thank you.
That's all.
She approved them.
She is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your testimony today. You're released from your subpoena. All right, next.
Statement called David Hoover.
Raise your right hand, sir. State your name.
David Hoover.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Seek it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And if you would state your name for the record, please.
David Hoover, D-A-V-I-D, H-O-O-V-E-R.
Thank you. And where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Nashville Crime Laboratory in the Latent Fingerprint or Latent Print Unit.
And what is your title or position there?
I'm a Special Agent Forensic Scientist.
Okay. And Agent Hoover, if you would kind of give the jury a brief overview of what your duties are there within the Latent Print Division.
My duties typically include processing evidence for fingerprints, any developed fingerprints or any developed prints that I find on the evidence I photograph or in some way capture them, then compare them and make identifications to individuals if that's possible. Also enter stuff into the APHIS database, search through the database for individuals as well. I also write my reports and testify in courts of law.
You mentioned the APHIS database. Could you explain what that is?
The APHIS database is essentially a database of fingerprint cards that we have on file at the TBI, and then we're able to search unknown fingerprints against that database to see if we can find an individual who may have left that print.
And how long have you been doing this there at the TBI?
I started in March of 2000, so about almost 25 years.
If you would, tell us a little bit about your educational background that allows you to perform those duties there at the TBI.
My background includes a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from David Lipscomb University with a minor in chemistry. Then at the TBI itself, I underwent a 2-year training period under court-qualified fingerprint examiners with over 100 years of experience. Since then, I've also had training from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Mississippi State Crime Laboratory, Arizona State Crime Laboratory, I believe, other agencies that have produced classes, as well as gone to conventions and things that also had classes throughout those 25 years.
How many examinations would you say that you've performed over your almost 25 years there at the lab?
At this point, I would think it was in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands.
Do you hold any certifications in the field?
I do. I'm a certified latent print examiner with the International Association for Identification.
And what type of technical equipment do you have there that you use at the lab?
We typically use a lot of the same things you actually see on TV. A lot of times you will see the dust fingerprint on a car or window or something, and they'll dust it and lift it. We actually still do that. We also use fluorescent dyes, which fluoresce at different wavelengths. So we have light sources that do different wavelengths as well. We now also have a system that we've had actually for quite a while. It's called RUVIS, which is Reflective Ultraviolet Light Imaging System, and they've learned that under certain wavelength of light, in this situation 254 nanometer light, it will the oils and the sweat of the fingerprints will reflect, and you can actually capture them photographically with that system.
And is this pretty standard equipment that's used across the country in various labs?
Pretty much, yes, I believe so.
Agent Hoover, have you been qualified to testify as an expert witness in the criminal courts here in Tennessee?
Yes, I have.
And after having been qualified as an expert, have you then gone on to give expert testimony?
Yes, I have.
And so then you've been qualified as an expert in the field of latent print identification. Is that correct?
Yes, in both state and federal courthouses.
All right. Judge, at this time we would offer Agent Hoover as an expert in the field of latent print identification.
He's an expert. All right. He'll be declared to be an expert in the field of latent print or fingerprint identification.
Agent Hoover, if you would, just tell us a little bit about what latent prints are.
A latent fingerprint is essentially a reproduction of the ridges of your fingers or palms, and it can also include your feet. This is called friction-ridged skin. It helps you hold on to things. So a latent print is essentially a reproduction of those ridges on a surface after you've touched them. Essentially, you've touched something, you've left sweat or oil in that reproduction of your ridges behind on that surface.
Okay. And as a latent print examiner, when you look at an object or you're looking for prints, what exactly is it that you're looking for?
I am looking for the ridge formations that we have in our fingerprints. Predominantly, we'll look for what is called level 1 detail first, which is the ridge flow and the pattern types within the fingerprint. Sometimes we don't have the pattern types and we can only look for the ridge flow itself. We're also looking for what we call level 2 detail, which is bifurcations, ridge endings, dots. These are the types of things that happen within the ridge flow itself. So a ridge is flowing along and then it suddenly stops and the two ridges on either side continues to go. That's an ending ridge. A bifurcation is essentially like a fork in a road. So you have the same thing except for that ending ridge touches one or the other side of that those other two ridges, forming essentially a fork in the ridge flow itself. A dot is essentially what it describes. It's defined. It's just simply a small area. It's just a ridge, and it's just a small dot that shows up.
All right. Are latent prints more than just what we talk about as being fingerprints?
Yes.
Okay. What all is?
There can be fingerprints. There can be palm impressions. Your joints of the fingers also have the same type of detail that we can use to identify people. And like I said a little earlier, your feet even has the same thing where you can actually develop footprints and then compare them to individuals their footprints and see if it's the same individual or not. It's rare, but it can be used for identification purposes.
Okay. If you would, talk for a second about how a latent print is created or left on a surface.
But like I said, when you touch something, you can leave behind that sweat and oil on that surface, and it can remain there, and then I can process it and develop it to be able to actually see it and capture it.
Do certain things affect whether or not you're able to develop a latent print on a surface or an object?
Yes. Some surfaces are not very good at retaining a latent print. Rough surfaces typically are not something that's very good in retaining a usable latent print, because if you touch a rough surface, that rough surface is going to break up that ridge flow. What you're touching, what you're using to actually leave behind, like I said, is sweat and oils, which typically also have a lot of water to them as well. So you're talking about a liquid medium, and if you're touching something that's very bumped and bubbled up, then some of that medium is going to be lost in the valleys and crevices of the rough surface. Some of it's going to be left on top. So it's going to be very broken up, and you're not going to be able to see or use it to actually identify somebody. Because what we're looking for is enough information and enough clear information to be able to say this latent print was left by this person's finger or footprint.
Okay. And does whether or not a surface is clean or dirty, does that affect?
That can also affect it, yes.
Okay. Now, you work at the lab in Nashville, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have a process as far as processing evidence that comes into the lab there in Nashville?
Yes, we do.
If you would explain to the jury how that works.
So an agency will bring in a piece of evidence. It will go through our evidence receiving section, in which case that piece of evidence is given a specific lab number and an evidence number. If that lab number is already created, and that's another lab number, or excuse me, another evidence number. As it goes through, it's then the case is assigned to an individual. In this case, I would receive the case. In this situation, I would receive the case, and then I would go pick up that evidence from evidence receiving to then do my testing.
All right. And prior to testing any items, do you make sure that they have been secured and not tampered with in any way?
The evidence receiving unit is involved in that, and they have a vault in which it is stored in, and that only they have the opportunity to get to. Once I get the evidence, I make sure that the evidence is in a sealed condition in some way, and then I go from there and then open it, process it from there.
All right. If we could at this time, I'd like to hand Agent Hoover exhibit number 196, trash can.
So this is the trash can that I received. It has our laboratory number. It has our exhibit number as well as my initials. This is the sticker that was on the side of the trash can. It also contains the exhibit number and my initials. And these are pieces of the rim of the trash can that I removed to be able to process better.
So at the time that you received the trash can there at the lab, the pieces that you just held up, they were
They were actually
as a
attached. Yes, it was a full trash can with those pieces of the rim attached to it.
Okay, you removed them, they were not broken or anything like that? Is that
No,
correct?
they were not.
And you mentioned you held up a sticker. Is that, is that like a sticker that would come from the manufacturer?
Yes,
That was on there?
yes, it was on the side of the trash can. It's a Sterilite sticker, manufacturer of the trash can.
Okay, and you removed that as well?
I did.
Okay. All right, Agent Hoover, did you attempt to develop any latent prints off of that particular item, the trash can?
I did.
And if you would kind of walk us through what your approach to analyzing that piece of evidence was.
May I refer to my notes, Your Honor? Is that all right?
Yes.
On that trash can, I did pretty much a full process of just about everything that we can do at the laboratory, or that we normally do for fingerprints at the laboratory, including super glue, dust, the Rubus system that I mentioned, the ALS, the fluorescent dyes that I mentioned as well. The rim, especially the body itself, no, it looks like I did everything on even the body itself as well.
Okay. And what were you able to determine, or what were you able to find as far as the prints were concerned?
On the sticker, I found a palm print, and up underneath the rim, which is the reason why I removed the rim, I found the very far tip of a fingerprint. And when I mean a far tip of the fingerprint, I'm talking about the areas up here at the very tip top of your print, right as it goes into the nail.
Okay. Talk about the palm print that you found for a second.
The palm print that I found was very small. In fact, it was probably about my size of my palm. The whole palm would have fit in about that much of the palm print. So I'm confident that it's probably a child's print. Some women, some people do have smaller hands, and so I couldn't totally discount comparing it to some other people. But it was a very small print.
Certainly didn't, would you say it was not the size of a normal man's hand?
Objections to leave. Sustained.
Well,
I'm sorry.
okay. Oh. So, you've already stated what you thought as far as that size was concerned. And so you excluded Megan Boswell as being the contributor.
I did compare it to Megan Boswell, and I was able to exclude it from her.
Okay. And you mentioned the fingerprint. And again, where did you locate that?
Up underneath the rim, I believe it was on the right side.
All right. And were you able to make any conclusions as far as that fingerprint was concerned?
I was.
And what did you conclude as far as that was concerned?
Well, eventually I was.
Okay. But, well, on the date that your initial examination was done in the report,
My
it was
initial,
issued on April the 2nd of 2020.
that was inconclusive to her because, in general, when you do a fingerprint card, if you look at the finger when you touch it, if you're doing a fingerprint card, you're rolling the person's finger. This part of the finger does not touch, so you don't really get a good recording of that tip area. That happens actually quite often.
All right. Agent Hoover, I'm going to hand you a document and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, it is.
And what is that?
It appears to be a copy of my report from April 2nd of 2020.
And is that a true and accurate copy of your report?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I move to make that exhibit 253.
Full exhibit 253.
Agent Hoover, you mentioned that you did not have a good roll of prints of Megan Boswell. Is that correct?
I would say I did not have complete prints,
Okay.
at least in that tip area. Sorry.
Sorry. Did you then attempt to, or speak with law enforcement in an attempt to get better prints of Miss Boswell done?
I did.
Okay. And did they comply with your request? Did you receive additional prints from them?
I did. They complied.
Okay. And were you able to do any additional comparisons based upon that next set of prints that they sent you?
Unfortunately, I was not able to.
And why was that?
The prints that I was sent still were not of a good enough quality to actually compare to.
And did you, Agent Hoover, did you prepare a finding in that regards?
I did.
Report? I'm going to hand you the document and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, sir, I did.
And what is it?
That is a copy of my report from July the 31st of 2020.
Reflecting that again, you still were not able to perform any.
My result was inconclusive again.
Okay. And is that a true and accurate copy?
It appears to be, yes.
Judge, I move to make that exhibit 254.
Yeah. That's 254. Full exhibit.
And so, Agent Hoover, did you then again speak with law enforcement?
Yes, it did.
And what was the nature of your conversation at that point?
That I still needed better prints, especially those around the tip area.
All right. And did they try yet again to get you a good copy of prints from Miss Boswell?
Yes, they did.
All right. Did they use a different technique this time?
Slightly different.
Okay. If you would tell the jury what type of technique they used.
They tried to use what is called hinge lifters. These are a product that some forensic warehouses produce, and it essentially is a small plastic, can be a square, can be a rectangle piece with tape over it, so that what happens is when you lift the tape, you're able to then lift it or put the tape over the print and then lift it, and it has its own backing already. And they attempted to do that and use, again, the same type of material to try to lift that print, or to try to lift that area of her finger, and send it to me.